All right, well, it's 9 o'clock, so if everybody will grab a seat, we'll go ahead and get started. My name is David Sullivan, Chairman of the Tourist Development Council, which we are meeting here this morning. So call the meeting to order. It's January 18th. It's 9 a.m. We're in the Government Services Building and in the board chambers here in Bunnell, Florida. So with that, if everybody would stand, I'll lead you in the pledge and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So we want to ask God to bless all the residents of Flagler County and especially our first responders, medical personnel, fire, and police. So with that, just a moment of silence. All right, thank you. So first, to clean up some administration stuff, I'm going to read a short statement that's to be included. At the October 19th, 2022 TDC meeting, the following items were documented as conflicts of interest per Florida State 112.31434A. Item 7A, Ryan Crabb of Hilton Garden Inn did not participate in the vote. And item 7A, Lisa Robinson of Hampton by Hilton did not participate in the vote. That's just to clear that up. So we'll get on with the meeting. I like to have everybody introduce themselves because there's always changes. So if we go around the room and we'll start with, who's here? Lisa. And just introduce yourself, who you represent, and then we'll prove that we have a forum and ready to go. So go ahead.
Good morning. I'm Lisa A. Robinson. I'm the general manager at the Hampton Inn and Suites by Hilton in Palm Coast.
Hey, good morning. I'm Stephen Baker, Director of Group Sales at Hammock Beach Resort. Good morning.
Good morning. Nick Clufus, Palm Coast City Council, District 3.
Good morning. Ken Bryan, City Commissioner, Flagler Beach.
John Lujarak, owner of Oceanside Beach Bar and Grill and president of Flagler Beach Business Bureau.
Good morning. Felicia Cook, General Manager of Marineland. Good morning.
All right, well, thank you all for being here. And we have a quorum, and we can go on with the meeting. We have the meeting minutes, which have been,
Chair, we have someone on the Zoom call as well that is
Oh.
on the TV.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Pam Walker, owner of Walker Adventures here in Palm Coast.
All right.
Glad to
thank
be with
Pam.
you.
Yeah, I did see that it was going to be Zoom. I'm sorry. So anyway, we clearly have a quorum here present. And with that, we'll get to item 2 on the agenda, if you have the agenda in front of you, which are the minutes from our meeting on October 19th. Are there any changes anybody wants to make to the minutes as provided? If not, I'll ask for a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve.
Seconded.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Aye, approved unanimously, so we'll go on to item 3, financial reports. And I guess, Amy, are you going to do that? All right, thank you. So we're on item 3, financial reports.
Yes, thank you. I can just give a brief update. So we ended the fiscal year of '22 with an increase of almost 23%. That was pretty much right in line with our neighbors as well. Volusia ended with an increase of 20%. However, year to date, our first 3 months of revenues, we are currently down almost 6%. Obviously, that's due to back-to-back hurricanes. The good news out of that is, although we are down, we are in not as bad shape as Volusia, who got hit pretty hard. Obviously, they have a lot of hotels there beachside. They're down between 15 and 16%. So they did not have a lot of inventory during those times. So therefore, no rooms were sold.
So that's the report. Any further discussion on the revenue report, which is item 3A? All right, need a motion to, we approve or accepting the financial reports? Well, anyway, need a motion to approve the item 3A revenue report.
Motion to accept?
Okay, we have a motion to accept. Any public comment concerning the revenue report? Hearing none, back to the board. All those in favor of accepting the financial report, item 3A?
Aye.
Aye.
Commissioner, we need a
Yes.
second on that, please.
I second it.
Thank you.
Ken, okay. All right, that passes unanimously. And then, Amy, back to item 3B, the budget's actual.
Yes, no real update. Obviously, we're in the beginning of our fiscal year, so we have plenty of money in all of our funds for all of our expenditures.
All right, any additional comment from the board on the budget's actual? There are funds in there to carry on our operation.
Motion to approve?
Second?
Motion and second to approve the budget's actual. Any comment from the public on that? Seeing none, back to the board. All those in favor of the motion, or the accepting the budget's actual, item 3B, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Pat? Okay, it's kind of hard to see Zoom. All right, that passes unanimously. We'll go on to the marketing reports. October 2022 marketing report. Whoever's going to present that.
In October, our out-of-state traffic experienced a 43% increase, with Atlanta sessions up 197% over October of 2021. And our unique newsletter signups were up 50%.
Okay, so it's 30 and 50, 30% visitor. I was trying to listen, I'm sorry.
Sure. The out-of-state traffic was up 43%, and with Atlanta sessions up almost 200% over October of 2021. And then the unique newsletter, or visitor e-newsletter that we send out, those signups were up 50%.
Okay. So we will have to do a motion on each of these, but so for, I need a motion on the 4A, October 2022 marketing report, and then we can make comments on it.
I make a motion.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Any further comment from the public on that? None, and back to the board. Before we vote, any comment on the October marketing report? And seeing none, back. All those in favor of the marketing report, item 4A, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That approves unanimously. November 22 marketing report.
Okay, in November, the overall site traffic increased 150% from the previous year. And then our holiday content had a strong presence in the top 20 organic landing pages, and that indicates that users are finding our content authoritative and timely.
All right, back to the board for, I want a motion on that, and we can comment if anybody wants to comment, but need a motion on item 4B.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any public comment on our November 22 marketing report? Seeing none. Any further comment from the board on that? All right. All those in favor of the November 2022 marketing report signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, that passes. Zoom? I just didn't hear Pam. Pam? Okay, so that's approved unanimously. Item 4C, December 2022 marketing report.
Okay, organic sessions for the whole year totaled 414,000. That was a 34% increase over 2021. And Visit Flagler outperformed DMOs industry-wide, who in 2022 saw a 2% decrease in organic sessions. And blog posts ranked in 4 of the top 20 overall landing pages, with the blog as a whole driving 7,600 sessions in December, which was a 77% increase year over year. We do have event pages, and we've been doing blogs that like compile all the events, and those have been landing in the top landing pages.
Just for my clarification on December, so the storms, doesn't sound like they had a whole lot of impact on the overall marketing report. Amy said that there was a little bit down, but just so I clarify, but December looks like it was still fine.
It was great, and then so the storms actually, in a way help our webcam because we get a lot of traffic to the webcam during the storms with all the looky-loos.
Yeah.
Just as a marketing report, that doesn't necessarily mean traffic physically in the area. So with the storms, it definitely probably helped, and which gave us more exposure, I'm sure. But I know as the business community, we also.
It's just kind of interesting. Yeah. So short term, it kind of helps. It's the long-term impacts that hurt. All right, I need a motion on item 4C.
Second?
Motion is second. Any public comment concerning the December 2022 marketing report? Seeing none, back to the board. All those in favor of the marketing report, December 2022, signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, unanimously approved. Okay, item 5, which will be our tourist development tax update, and Stevenson from the Flagler County Tax Office is here to provide that report.
Hi, good morning, everybody.
Morning.
I'm Shelley with the Tax Collector's Office. It's good to see all of you again. I think I remember how to use this. All right. So we're going to talk about our active accounts. There's not much that I can tell you about these accounts, but I can tell you how many we have and where they're at. So we'll talk about that. We are up about 54 accounts since the last time we spoke, so that's good news. That's more inventory, as Amy likes to talk about. So each of our different types are up. So for single-family homes, it's 495, partial homes 30, and so on. You can read it. The last time we spoke, you asked about what miscellaneous accounts were, or those remaining miscellaneous accounts. So I put them up here for you, and that's manufactured homes, co-ops, miscellaneous residentials, boarding, multi-unit homes, rental memberships, marinas, and we do have some bed and breakfast. If you'll may or may not remember, last time the bed and breakfast was included up there, they're no longer included. I'll give you the rule for that if there are 3 or less. So if they're no longer up there, that means I can't include them for a reason. Okay, so that is a change from last time.
Just so I'm clear on that, because if they're more than that, they're in a different
We can
category.
throw them up there. The 9 RV campgrounds,
Yep.
I can tell you there's 9, but if there's 3 or less, I can't tell you
I got
because
you,
you could
I got you.
start figuring those out. So,
Got a question.
yes.
On the 9 RV campgrounds, are those just rentals? Are those campers themselves, or you just don't know? I'm just curious because it's consistent with the last report, it appears.
9 campgrounds.
Okay, so it's 9 campgrounds.
RV parks.
Okay, all
RV
right. not individuals,
parks,
but parks.
campgrounds,
Okay,
yes.
All right.
It's not spaces. You're probably thinking
Right, it's-
spaces.
Right.
Right, it's a count.
Okay, all right.
Yep.
So similarly to a hotel
Yeah,
is
yeah.
one building with 100 rooms.
Okay, all right,
So there may be multiple units in those campgrounds, but
That's fine.
yes, okay. Any other questions? Okay. All right, so let's talk about the active accounts.
Thank you.
This is just a moment in time. I can't recreate this number and tell you what it was, 3 years ago, but I can tell you what it is moving forward. So being here each time, I give you what that count is. I've put them together just so you could kind of see what those active accounts have looked like during these quarterly meetings that we've been here. I call this the Felicia report. So here's where all of your rentals are located. And again, we're 54 accounts up since the last time we met, but this is where those accounts lie. Any questions about this? Okay. This is,
Can you go back to that one just a
yes,
second?
absolutely.
But it does kind of point out where the dollars are coming from. To a degree.
Any questions?
Sized. Yeah.
All right, so this is just a line graph just to kind of show you we're on trend with our collections year over year. You still see that COVID line, you see what happened there, but otherwise we're on the right track. Here's our actual collection dollars trending through the month of October, year over year. You can see where we fell this October, significantly more than pre-COVID, but we did have a loss from this time last year. Correct. So similarly for November, we were up about $5,000, but in the whole scheme of things, it was very close. And then December. Any questions about those?
And that's the finish on December. That's all of December. Okay.
I do. Do you know whether the November was the displaced people having to rent things that they, I mean, I know it's just a little bit up, but it really should have
Right.
trended down from
Right.
2021. But we had a lot of people that were displaced and had to have rentals in the hotels for short periods of time or.
And it very well could have been. I don't know. I know you talked about your e-newsletter having a little more exposure. I hope we played some part in that. We did reach out to all the taxpayers, tourist taxpayers, and told them about your e-newsletter and guided them in that direction. So that may be why it was up, hopefully. So that was, I got a lot of feedback from this too, by the way. They all really enjoyed it. So they were looking at it for sure. Our enforcement updates, not really much to talk about. People are doing the right thing. They're paying their tourist tax. We did have 2 enforcement actions that we proceeded on, but in the end they paid and there's no active
Paid.
warrants.
Yeah.
Previously, we talked about these collection allowances. You remember last April, we made some changes to the way we do the collections to match the way the state does their collections. And in doing so, the collection allowance that we were giving away, if you will, it's if you have less than $1,200 in tax due, your collection allowance will be less than the $30, but the max is $30 that each taxpayer was paying on each account. Do we all remember that? Anybody have any questions? Okay, so previously we were giving away, to say last year, over $5,000. This year it was just under $3,000 for the month of October. So similarly for November and December.
Great.
So
And-
long-term,
and
that's
people have been
significant
paying anyway,
savings.
so I mean, it
Right. Well, and it matches with the state, so,
Yeah.
you know, it's what we were supposed to be doing. Our system wasn't capable of doing it at the time, but we've since fixed that, so. And that's it. Do you guys have any questions?
sounds like you're doing, everything's working pretty well.
All right, well, thank you very much. It was
All
good
right,
to
thank
see you all.
you.
Good luck.
Thank you for being here. All right, so we're now on to agenda item 6, which is our Fund 110, which is the discretionary event funding. Are we, so we'll just take these one at a time. The first one being 6A, Continuing Education Company Spring Conference Session, March 27th. Anything new or special about that? Just go ahead, Amy, I'm sorry.
Thank you. As many of you who've been around a while may recognize, this conference that we have helped sponsor or host for many, many years now, and it's probably one of our top economic impact events that we have here in the county. And as I've said before, Walter Ennis is here, and him and his wife, Barbara, own continuing education company, and they are a great success story because they came here as visitors with their conference, and they eventually relocated here and moved their business here. But this conference, they have 2 sessions, and it's great because they have the sessions 8 to 12. So now they have all afternoon and in the evening to go out, sorry, Stephen, but to explore other restaurants in the county. And so that's good for all the businesses in our community. But if you have any specific questions, Walter is here and can help answer those.
Walter, since you're here, you can cover both A and B. We'll vote on them separately, but both same deal, right? Go ahead, Walter. Nice.
Walter
Thank you
Ennis.
for being here.
No problem. Thank you very much for having me here. Walter Ennis with Continuing Education Company. As Amy said, we've been putting on 2 sessions of it. And for those of you who don't know the history behind the 2 sessions, the venue was just as big as it is. We outgrew it. So we decided, hey, what if we do it again the following week with a whole different group, different speakers and so on. So it's really 2 separate conferences. And we pretty much have been fortunate to, bring down around 250 attendees, but our analysis shows that they come down with close to 4 people per attendee. So they're bringing their families and so on. So it's a lot of people coming into the area. One of the notes that also Amy mentioned is that when we came down ourselves, we fell in love with the area and decided to move down here. And every year we find 1 or 2 of our clinicians, I say clinicians because we have nurse practitioners, physicians, MPAs, that love the area and they might buy a condo and vacation down here. But we're really trying to use this to leverage the meeting to help us here in Flagler County with our healthcare issue of we just don't have enough doctors. So this year we're going to try to promote that, not just come for the meeting, but also stay, and hopefully we'll have some success with that as well. But if there are any questions, feel free.
Any thoughts on the board? Yep, we're glad you're here.
Thank you very much.
Commissioner, I need to excuse myself from voting. We have a block of rooms for Walter's group at Hammock Beach, but I'll be glad to answer any questions. But and we signed the appropriate forms for it.
All right. So that being the case, we'll vote on each. We'll make our recommendation. The motion is to recommend to the Board of County Commissioners on these items. So item 6A, which is the $8,000 for Continuing Education Company Spring Conference Session 1, March 27th through 31st. Motion to recommend that.
Motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any comments, additional comments from the public on this one? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board for approval of the item 6A, $8,000 for Continuing Education, Session 1, March 27th through 31.
Motion to approve.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second, and we've asked for public comment with the one exception of Mr. Baker, who will not be voting on this. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
You have that's unanimous. Item 6B, same subject, only this will be session 2, April 3rd through 7th. Motion for that.
Move approval.
Move to approve. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any public comment concerning that motion? Seeing none, back to the board. To approve the motion to recommend to the Board of County Commissioners, item 6B, $8,000 for Continuing Education Company, Session 2, April 3rd, 3 through 7, 2023. All those favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
That's approved unanimously. All right. Items, a similar kind of situation, items 6C, 6D, we'll vote on them individually, but the Florida Flag Football State Championships, the Championship and Hall of Fame ceremony, June 24th through 25th, 2023.
Thank you.
Amy, any comments on that one?
Just I can give a brief overview. This is also an event, a tournament that we've hosted for several years now. Some of you may remember the representative from the organization of Florida Flag Football, Norm McLean. And the June event is the state championship and the Hall of Fame ceremony. We've been helping provide fund relief for this event probably since 2015. There's over 1,000 attendees, and it's held at the Indian Trail Sports Complex. And the championship game is held on Sunday, which is good because we get that extra overnight.
All right. And I know the gentleman who represented was here at our last meeting, I think, and briefed us on this, so I think we all should be pretty much up to date on it. So we'll do them separately. Item 6C, the $5,000 Florida Flag Football State Championship and Hall of Fame ceremony in June. I ask for a motion on that.
Motion to approve.
Second?
Motion and a second. Any public comment concerning that? Seeing none, bring it back to the board. Item 6C, as moved, to recommend to the Board of County Commissioners. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, approved unanimously. 6D, similar thing, but I guess this is the start of the next session. Is that right?
Yes, this is the qualifier for the national championships.
Right.
And this tournament is held at Wadsworth. And it's a good time of year, September. That's usually when it slows down for us. Again, we've been partnering with this organization since 2015.
And they meet all the, our requirements.
Yes, sir.
So again, I'll ask if anybody has any comments on that now. If not, a motion to approve the $5,000 for the Florida Flag Football National Championship qualifier here, September 2nd through 3rd.
Motion to approve.
Seconded.
We don't have anybody having to abstain from these. Okay. Although, any public comment concerning this second item for flag football? Seeing none, bring it back to the board. All those in favor of item 6D, $5,000 Florida Flag Football National Championship qualifier, September 2nd and 3rd, 2023. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 That's approved unanimously also. Okay. We're at the agenda item 7, which is our Fund 110, fiscal year 24, discretionary event funding. And Amy, do you have, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. This is a new client that we've been working with. It's the Florida Association of Free and Charitable Clinics, and their event will be happening next fiscal year. But since this is a new organization, new event in front of you, I have asked the event organizer to come. It's Rebecca De Lorenzo. Some of you may recognize her, and she can give you a little bit more details about the conference and answer any questions.
Welcome, and give us your name and for the record.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Rebecca De Lorenzo, Florida Association of Free and Charitable Clinics. Excited to bring our annual conference here to Flagler County in November of 2023.
Three.
Confused me with the fiscal year 24. I'm not ready for it.
Right.
I joined the organization last January, and historically, our conference has always been held in Orlando, where we're a very tiny fish. We're still a very tiny fish, but excited to come here and move our annual conference outside of Orlando. Our association supports 113 free and charitable clinics around the state of Florida. We administer a grant through the Department of Health to those clinics, so we provide funding, and part of the grant application is for attendees to come to our educational conference. So we generally have a guaranteed attendance of around 225 attendees. And these individuals are executive directors, medical directors of their, own respective clinics throughout the state. So they're very excited to move it outside of Orlando, most of them.
Great. Well, thank you, but any questions or comments from the board on this?
Commissioner, I need to abstain from voting as we have a block of rooms for the group at Hammock Beach Resort, and we filled out the proper forms. Yep.
All right. It's interesting, just yesterday at our workshop, we talked a lot about medical, but it was the state clinic, but the people doing the state clinic here, for health, also kind of are involved with the free clinic here, so there were some comments about that. So I think any support, it's not so much this is support to them, but I think it makes it more public to the people here who understand how important the free clinics are in the service they provide. And some of the things we do here are unique.
Absolutely, yep.
So I think that's great. So any other comments on the board on this, or? Great. So I think we're at the point where I'm asked for motions we will, again, recommend this to the Board of County Commissions. That will be what the motion does.
I make a motion that we approve.
Great.
Seconded.
All right, any other additional public comment on this motion? Hearing none, we'll bring it back to the board to approve the recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners for the following event: $5,000 for the Florida Association of Free and Charitable Clinics, November 8th through 10th, 2023. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 So that's approved. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much for being here.
Thank you.
All right. Item 8, Fund 109 Capital Projects. And what we're doing here, I'll let Amy talk about this, and then we'll bring it back.
Yes, so it's that time of year again where we bring before you 2-year collections from Fund 109, the capital projects, so that you can make a recommendation to the BOCC of how much money you want to make available for the eligible applicants. Now, what you decide today, then we won't see the applicants for a year and a half. So that will give them enough time to plan, to budget, and get all their ducks in a row. So with that said, you'll see on the screen available to you is $931,716. So I also provided the history of what you did last time, since it was January of 21. Last time you had up to $923,948, and you did an 80-20 distribution. And what I mean by that is you recommended 80% of the allowable funds to be eligible for the applicants. So if you followed that same guideline as last year, then that would be $745,372. But it is up to your discretion of what you would like to recommend, all, some, nothing, whatever pleases the board. But that's what you have to work with.
And I just wanted to point out, the last time we did this, Palm Coast came in with the best project, and that money is going to them. It
Yes,
has nothing to do with what we're
that's
doing
earmarked.
here.
And
So I just want to clarify that. And comments concerning the
also-
80-20, the 80-20.
yeah, and also whatever ends up being the amount, it still does not mean, let's just say it's $745,000. That still does not mean you are bound to that $745,000 once the applicants come. We could have no applications, or we could have 1, 2, 3, and you would still have that discretion of what you would like to recommend based on the total amount.
And then Amy, any leftover monies in there?
Yes.
Yeah. Go for it. Okay.
I have a question. The extra 20% just stays in the fund?
Yes, ma'am, it stays in reserves.
Okay.
Yes.
And just for clarity, in these particular projects, they have to be shovel-ready, correct?
That's not necessarily one of the criterias, but usually, as we saw with Palm Coast, they had done a lot of homework ahead of time.
In other words, it helps it dramatically if you do have a shovel-ready.
It does, because of all the questions of the criteria that's needed, there's a lot of homework on the front end for the applicant.
Okay.
Well, I personally think the 80-20 is still a good recipe. I don't know about my toes here, but it's not broke. Let's not.
No, I agree with Felicia. Absolutely.
So with that, I mean, I'd like to make a motion that we keep it 80-20.
And 80.
Second.
I had one question though.
Yes, go ahead.
So looking at the 2022 and 2020. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm trying to figure out how 2022, we gave 739,000 or whatever it was we voted on, and then 191. I just like the 2019 to 2020 where it was more divided for each year, where one person is not getting a big old lump sum. So how did we get there?
I'm sorry, can you repeat?
Basically, not give it all to one entity you were talking about. right?
I think
Was
that
the
comes
question?
back to us to choose.
Okay, but.
Yes.
Yeah.
But people
Yes.
have to make honest proposals that has
Yeah.
some substance to them.
Okay, so if it had been two people, it would have been divided, is the question that I was asking.
That'll be our-
Because I wasn't
our-
at the
kinda our
January
decision
meeting
then,
that time, I
around
was
to
at the February.
Yes, ma'am. This does not necessarily mean it goes to one applicant or not. This just decides how much money will be available for eligible applicants. And if 1, 2, 3 come before you, you can decide, give it all to one or some to
Divide it out.
3. Yeah, it'll be at your discretion based on the criteria that they met.
Okay, all right, thanks.
I just personally think it's fiscally responsible for us to have reserves. So,
Agreed. Agreed.
So the motion's been made to keep it at 80/20 on the distribution, so we keep some 20% in reserve. So we have the motion now. I ask the public.
I second it.
Right, okay. So any public comment concerning this specific item here on the Fund 109 capital projects? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board for any additional comments, or when I go forward with a vote. So I'll go forward with all those in favor of approving the split for the capital projects, signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, that passes unanimously. All right. Item 9 on the agenda is the Fund 111 Beach Renourishment Review and Recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners for the following expenditure from reserves. And Amy, you probably want to talk a little about this. We've got some people here to discuss it.
Yes. So back in August of 2021, we held a special meeting for Fund 111 Beach Restoration to allocate the county's match for Hurricane Dorian project. And we recommended to the BOCC, which they accepted and approved, $339,478. So fast forward to now, the county put out an RFP for construction, and they received responses. They went through that whole process, and there is a price increase basically between what was estimated and what came back. It's just an estimate. And they are short basically $118,124, which is our portion of the local match. I have Faith here who can do it much more justice and answer any questions about the project and help explain, or John, who's our finance director.
Mr. Chair, John Brower, Financial Services. It's my understanding as of today that I just found out that the 118-124 is not needed for this anymore. Ms. Faith can explain why that is. But the idea was this was just additional costs that you already approved for to be funded for this project, so.
Faith.
Good morning, Faith Al-Khatib, County Engineer. After Dorian, we did submit a project to FEMA requesting to reconstruct our dunes and beaches at that time. The cost estimate 2 years ago, it was approximately $2.7 million. Now the project has been designed, permitted, we advertised for this project, and the bids then came in approximately more than the cost estimate. And that's what initiated to increase our local match here with Flagler County. Typical when we submit our project to FEMA, 75% will be from FEMA funding, 12.5% local, which is Flagler County at this time, and 12.5% from FDEM. Recently, working with DEP, we did come up with an agreement and we received additional funding to maximize our funds to this project. Negotiating with DEP, they're going to be paying us the local 12.5 matching fund, which is approximately 400. I wrote it somewhere here, 475,000. We appreciate you, whatever you appropriated before, and at this time, the 118,000, we don't need it at this time. But we always appreciate all the funding available from TDC to help us applying for grants and try to get our project done, which is really needed for Flagree County coastline. Heads up, we are still applying for more grants at this time. We are trying to apply for Cat B FEMA funding after Hurricane Nicole, too many of them now, I lost tracking. Dorian, and right now we thinking we're going to be applying for $18 million, and our local match at this time, and you are the first board to hear about this, it might be between $2.3 million to $2.5 million. It's going to be coming to you in the future, hopefully, if our board decided to move on and allow us to apply for this grant. I'm here to answer any questions related to any of the dunes and beaches projects.
Okay, so my understanding right now is this item 9 is not needed at this time. So we don't have to do anything on that. And I think there's an item 11, is that right, Amy? Fund 111, beach renourishment discussion? That would be more along the line of what we're talking about. Is that right?
Yes, 9, 10, and
so-
11 all.
All right, so
Can I add one more thing?
Sure.
When we attended our board meeting a couple of weeks ago, I was working with GEP to get that local match funded by them. They agreed on it, but just recently we did receive the agreement and it's going for our board to be approved in the upcoming
and I'll
meeting.
take that message back to the
Okay,
to the
thank
board.
you.
Okay, so, so that item we can eliminate at this point in our meeting right now.
Yeah.
So let's go on to item 10, because there's more coming and all this. Fund 109 capital projects, review and recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners for the following: interfund loan up to $2 million from reserves for the North Flagler County Dune Restoration Project from Hurricane Dorian. Is that right?
Yes,
From
this
Dorian?
is still related to Dorian. As Faith mentioned, we have received a lot of money from FEMA. However, in order to get that reimbursed, we have to spend it. And so there is a request for cash flow purposes, up to $2 million from the Fund 109 Capital Project Reserves. So I'll have them give a little bit more.
I'll just, from my position, since
background.
I was at the board meeting workshop on Tuesday, this came up. And kind of what happened on that is rightfully, Amy, and we made the point that this request had not come through our council here, the committee, and we're supposed to make recommendations for expenditures like this. So the idea, so it was not approved by the Board of County Commissioners, which would have meant they had gone around to a degree, this council. So this is being brought back to us for a recommendation to go forward to the Board of County Commissioners. And the interim step was approved, which was to take this $2 million out of our general fund reserves till our meeting was held, and then we would discuss it at our meeting as to our approach on this. So with that, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, Amy surmised it very well. We need the $2 million for cash flow purposes. It is a loan. It is for reimbursement. We'll put it right back in the fund. However fast Faith can get the reimbursement. So you're not losing $2 million. It'll come back to you in the future.
I have a question about this. I realize that the TDC has fund 111 for beach renourishments, and that we have 109 for capital projects, and we just heard that, first of all, our balance for 109 capital projects is only $900,000. So I have two questions. One, you said it's already been approved to come out of the general fund of Flagler County, which is appropriate place for it to come from, considering that we don't have it. So I just don't know how.
Before we go on there, I think Amy needs to explain that. There is money in the capital fund that we could do this.
So
Reserves are not used
in the
for-
capital project reserves that prior to the other item number 8 that you just did, we had approximately 2.8 million that has not been earmarked in capital project reserves.
You're right.
Okay.
That hasn't been earmarked, you're right.
That has not been earmarked. Now, with that said, you just now did 700 something thousand from that, which would obviously decrease that from 2.8.
Correct.
Correct.
Yes. So that's,
So there,
it's,
So it leaves you 2.
what?
Yeah, it leaves you 2 million
It leaves you
and
2.
and change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they want 2.3. And you know that 20% I was talking about that's fiscally responsible, all of a sudden that's gone now. So I'm just confused at why the
Well,
county
we
would
all, I mean,
come
that's
and
why,
ask us
that's
for
why we're
something
going to
like that.
discuss it today, and I want Amy to, we'll come in on this too.
I'd like to ask a question.
Go ahead.
You say it's a loan,
Right.
but when can we expect it to come back to us? I mean, that's a lot of money to be out a fund that we sometimes need, if I'm not mistaken.
Agreed.
Faith Al-Khatib, County Engineer again. We're going to be starting construction by the end of this month, and we are anticipated the project schedule to go on for 3-4 months. So we will do our best to get your money back within 4 or 5 months.
Okay, and that comes back from FEMA?
So yes, part of it, FEMA, we pay the contractor, we get the canceled check, we submit our invoices to FEMA, we get our money back. Part of it, as I mentioned to you, from DEP, the 12.5%, we do the same thing. We process our invoices, then we go back to the grant agency to request our funding back. And that's what we need, this kind of funding for cash flow, to pay it, get paid back.
Right. And
Okay.
the reason that we want to use this fund for that is that I think, John, at the meeting workshop on Tuesday, you did say, this is just the beginning. We're going to have a number of these items come up during the year. So this is it for us.
That would wipe us clean.
Yeah.
Well-
Yeah, exactly.
I just let me finish. And so the question about when do we get the money back is important. And when I hear FEMA, my past experience with that is
Years.
sometimes that takes more than a few months.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'd almost, okay, so we're going this route right now because it's the most expedient route to take for the county, I guess, rather than just keep knocking our reserves down earlier than expected. So the overall reason that we want to go this way, can you, maybe Faith or John can explain, why now, if we're going to be doing the same thing again later in the year, not to us, but to the reserves, why is it best to do it this way right now?
Mr. Chair, there's, multiple projects going on. If you recall, $5 million emergency sand was approved out of the general fund just a little bit ago. So we are using the general fund. We're just trying to use whatever we can use to keep the ball rolling for Faith to continue to fix our beaches. There's, we have fund balance, you may recall us talking about 2/12 and 3/12 and that kind of thing. That's for this purpose as well, but that's quickly getting eaten up as well with.
John, what I'm afraid of, speaking as a commissioner, and your representative on the commission on this council, is that that's all going to happen. And then when some money comes back from FEMA, they'll say, well, we've got higher priorities right now because our reserves are way down, and we're going to have to delay, refurbishing the tourist development capital fund account. So, I think we should. I think from our position of the council, and I want to hear what you think, you know, how urgent is this that we do it this way right now? I guess is one, as opposed to the overall staff take care of this separate, in a different way?
How urgent. This project has been in our capital improvement project for at least 1.5 years. We have to get it done. This agreement with FEMA will be expired soon. We apply for a grant, we bring it to the board to be approved, and now is the time to get it done. That's for the one we are discussing, the $2 million cash flow. Why? And more to come, I agree with you. Recently, we're having 2 storms. There is funding available there, and our job to go out there to bring it to our community. This source of funding, the only place we can use it on dunes and beaches to restore our dunes, to protect the residents, to protect the infrastructures, flooding, utilities. So that's our goal. So any grants available out there will go after it. Right now, the $2 million cash flow, but yes, Commissioner, heads up, we're going to be getting another $3.8 million from DEP and also grant money to restore our dunes. The $5 million is going to be also coming in to restore our dunes. No local match, but we have to have cash flow to pay and get paid back. Sometimes, based on the statute, within 45 days, we process our invoices. I agree with you. We cannot guarantee how soon we can get reimbursed from the grant agencies. Also, as I mentioned to you, we're going to be maybe applying for Cat B. And when I say maybe Cat B, I'm talking about $18 million. And that $18 million, my understanding, 50% of that number will get it immediately to Flagler County to start spending that money, different than what we're doing here for Cat G, for Dorian. So I do understand your concerns. I do understand what's going on with Flagler County, but we are doing our best to bring these grants with zero local match. But anyway, Flagler County, they have to come up with the cash flow. And
So basically, your emergency has become our urgency. Is that due to poor planning on the part of Flagler County's financial area? Because where is your beach funding account? I'm from a beach community, Panama City Beach, and they have reserves that are specific for beach. I don't see that in Flagler. I see you have a reserve account. I don't see that you say the beach is what brings the people. You know, I think one of the councilmen said something like life and property is important, okay? But the county doesn't back their words with their action. They have a reserve account that obviously has the cash flow. That's why it got approved. Why not use it and let us do what we do?
Yeah, Felicia makes a really good point. But at the same time, having been on this board for a long time, FEMA works very, very slowly. Our government to pay back it takes long time to get the money back. And your estimate of 4 to 5 months and then get the money back. You yourself just said it took 1.5 years on the other project to get the money back. So I don't particularly like what you want to do and dry up our fund to pay for county coffers. I just disagree with that.
May I ask for a clarification question? My question for clarification is, in this fund, we actually have more funding dollars that's available. They've just already been earmarked, right? So we're not at jeopardy of draining this down to like a $0 balance. They've just been earmarked for the future. Is that true?
Mr. Chair, that's correct. The two that I know of, right off the top of my head, is the $1.1 million for the building relocation of the tourist development. And I actually took out, I didn't even count in my reserve calculation, the revenue for this year. So there's plenty of reserves for this. We're not taking it and never giving it back. You know, the county is a small county and everything has been run out of the general fund. We are going to the board. We just had a conversation in a workshop, I guess it was yesterday, about diversifying revenue sources. And one of those was a beach type thing. But as part of the conversation, we have to transition to that. But right now, we're all in the general fund. It is.
Hey, Mr. John, what happens if it's not approved through here? Where does the money, where would you go? What's the plan B for you?
Well, Plan B would be general fund, but there's only so much in the general fund too. So what we're trying to do is access all the different revenue sources that we can to get our beach back where it needs to be, so you guys can bring in more money as a tourist.
Yeah, until the next hurricane.
Right.
Right. The point here that I would make is that even if we say no, I'll say more about this, and maybe Amy can say more about it, but even if we say no, the Board of County Commissioners could still overrule that decision, just so you know that.
Understand that.
And therefore,
Yeah, we know.
I think we ought to, I'd like to hear what the rest of the council has to say about this before I say anything else.
So my opinion is if we could get, maybe to alleviate some of the concern, the timeline for those, some of the capital projects that have been earmarked, is the concern that we're draining our balance down to zero? Because I don't think that's the actual case, and those funds aren't spent, or aren't set to be spent on any particular date as far as I'm aware, so that could be extended out into the future, especially if one of those projects was the relocation of the tourism facility. That's where I'm thinking that this is a great opportunity for cash flow, because some of those earmarked projects are potentially, they're not on the schedule on this date and that date. Is that a good line of thinking potentially?
Mr. Chair, that's kind of the way we think about it too. And because it's not immediately needed, it's not allocated, that's why it's sitting in the reserves in the first place. Again, there's $4 million roughly in the reserves. So there's enough there to cash flow this. And again, and Ms. Faith can talk more about it, but I think FEMA has a commitment to do things quicker now with the current hurricanes.
Well, again, Faith, County Engineer, processing invoices, it takes, based on the statute, 45 days. The contractor has to be out there getting work done, submitting his invoices, paying him, getting the cancel check, then going back and resubmit it to the grant agency. And nobody's perfect, but with all that said, we always try our best to get reimbursed for each invoice. At least it will take 2 months, that's true, for the cash flow. Right. Us as a Flagler County, and I can speak on because I'm handling the coastal line beaches and dunes projects. Typical at this time, we do have a plan. Flagler County, they did beach management study, and we come up with a plan. And one of these things then require to create some kind of taxing assessment to the resident to start having some funding to keep proceeding, getting grant, and maximize the funds to do the best for our community. So that's what's our ultimate goal. And it's always about the money. And again, Flagler County, they have the options, including you're the TDC commissioners. You have the option to say yay or nay for these grants, and just for the reason you don't have cash flow. But us as engineers, we are doing our best to identify the problem, finding the funding, eliminating the local match. Typical, we have to match 50% DEP grant. That's typical. Recently, we did our best to waive that. Recently, you have to pay 12.5% for FEMA local match. We did our best to waive that. So I do understand your concern about your cash flow. I do understand how much Flagler County limited to their bank account funding available, but we are doing everything we can do to help our community, and that's what we are asking you to do, to share that approach with us.
Right.
I'm not against helping. My business is on the beach. I fully get it. I understand. I just, first of all, personally was upset that it made it to an agenda without ever coming to us. So I thank you for stopping that.
We at least brought it back.
And I appreciate that. But that was something that was just not nice. It's not polite, And so I do appreciate that Dave stood up for us. I don't have a problem with assisting. I think that's what we all do. We play team. I have a problem with it being, you can say nay, but the county's going to approve it anyway.
Well, I'm not saying that right now, but I did, before I go to Amy, I want everybody to read overview summary. Do you understand where this is? This is a temporary fix. It's not part of the $200 million permanent fix that is being looked at now also. It's 8,350 feet south of Flagler County, Malacompa Park, up to Washington Oaks. But anyway, it's a small feature. Here's the problem. If we don't do this, the next storm that comes will be a lot worse than previous, and we'll end up spending more money. My feeling is, I can't direct, I want to hear what everybody has to say, is that we should put some language in at least, whatever we do today, that says somehow or another, put a time limit on when we can get the money back. The money has to come back by the end of the fiscal year. Is something in there to add some strength, because we may want to say no, but I worry that probably may or may not be approved at the BOCC level. So I want to hear what Amy has to say, and then I'll come back to you, John.
Well, I mean, when Faith gave us the good news that they no longer need our match,
Which is great.
for
Thank you,
Dorian,
Faith.
that's $339,000, and we were anticipating another 118, which is for $457,000 from the beach fund that is no longer needed. And I think the bigger concern, Councilman Clufus, is, or if I'm interpreting Ms. Walker and Ms. Cook, is using reserves from a fund that is not dedicated to beach funding. So we do still have funds in reserves in the beach account. So I don't know if it's a compromise if we, and these are just my loose math, but around, since now we don't need, or they don't need the Dorian money that was approved, now we would have like 1.4 million left in the beach. And maybe that is a compromise to use the beach fund reserves first for beach projects. That's an option as well. I know it was brought up about if it goes to the county commissioners, then what happens? So they can, but it's got another layer of process, because in the statute, there is, what's required from the county is to have a tourism development plan.
Yes.
And the tourism development plan is how our funds are spent, which is 60, 20, 20, 110, 111, 109, 110, and 111. And we have adopted that in an ordinance. So by statute and by an attorney general opinion, if the county commission would like to amend the tourism development plan, even if it's a one-time thing, it has to be majority plus one, and then by ordinance, we change our plan. So yes, but there is another layer of process outside of just a 3-2. It would have to be 4-1 and amended by an ordinance.
Okay, Amy, just before I let everybody talk, in the next item, Fund 111 Beach Renourishment, you're going to talk a little about how to handle this in the future. Is that correct?
Yes.
So before we make our final decision on this, maybe we should hear what your plan is there, and maybe we can kind of craft our ultimate ordinance based on what we think is going to happen in the future on this from our position. Does that make sense to anybody?
Yes.
Before we
Yeah.
do our motion here.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
so as some of you may know, remember, Fund 111, the beach fund, the process prior to Hurricane Matthew was an application. And so all eligible applicants could apply, which they did, Beverly Beach, Flagler Beach, for projects. Obviously, Hurricane Matthew changed our world and the need for the beach fund. We more than doubled our commitment to the beach fund during that time as well. And we've also have doubled our revenues in that account, or almost doubled. So obviously, I'm not sure the application process makes sense anymore. There's a lot of moving projects, moving pieces. things change as we've seen. So I was trying to find a way that could help meet the needs for the county with the projects and the funding that's needed, and also make sure there's assurance to the board of this fund and how it would be spent. So one of the suggestions or thoughts that I had that I wanted to bring before you is that I would work with the county attorney. So there's obviously eligible uses for beach restoration projects. And I would work with the county attorney to kind of spell out the most common ones that the county would use those for. And essentially, at the end of the year, let's say, or a certain time of the year, however much money we have collected in revenues, kind of what we did with the 109, say, hey, this is how much we collected, and after we pay the tax collector and the bank fees and the auditor, this is the net. This is how much is available in the beach fund. And then it would allow the county finance department to essentially withdraw that money and put it into the eligible beach projects. They then, at the after the end of the year, or after they distribute that money, they then would provide a report to the TDC that says, hey, we were able to withdraw $700,000, and this is how we spent it, where we spent it, to give the board that assurance. That way, they don't have to wait around to come before us. The beach fund is for beach projects, and they know which ones are going to be priority, which ones need the cash flow, which, they have a handle on that much better than we do. So I was trying to find a way that could meet in the middle, that could give the board assurance, but also allow them to have that tool. It's almost would look like a grant that we are allowing the county to just go ahead and decide. And because there's, as Commissioner Sullivan said, there's more projects that would need funding. So instead of coming kind of piecemealing project by project, we just say, hey, here's how much is available that we collected this past year. Because there won't be any shortage of projects. There's more projects than money, so it won't take them long to spend it.
Okay, just before I go back to, here's what I think I'm going to have to do, though. I need to get a motion of some kind here today concerning this. I think I'm going to have to abstain from that vote, because if I vote one way or the other here, it indicates how I'd vote at the Board of County Commissioners. So, and one of my fellow county commissioners is here also right now. So I'd like to get a feeling from the rest of the council as to where you want to go with this right now, and I'll stop, whatever you guys decide, there are enough of you to decide, I will bring that forward, but I have to be careful the way I vote on this. I don't want to indicate how I'd vote at the Board of County Commissioners. So I'd like the rest of you to chime in on this, and,
I like what Amy just proposed, that the beach fund is for the beach. That's what it should be used for. I'm not against any of that. But the capital fund wasn't that purpose. And I would think that after Matthew, we would have already, as a county, started the funds that you're now talking about that we're going to start, so that we weren't in this situation. So I know you can't go back, but we can move forward. And in moving forward, I think that that's a very good idea. And they wouldn't have to come to our meetings and say, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. They would just have to provide, this is what we did with it. And
okay, John, you wanted to chime in on this?
Well, I guess Amy answered my question, was basically, is this legal interfund transfers? I'm unfamiliar with that and how that all works. I mean, emergency situations are emergencies.
they are.
If we were the absolute last resort, it makes sense. I'm not hearing that we are the last resort. I'm just hearing that, hey, it's just a kind of, I'm kind of torn. Is there a chance that we won't get this money back? If there are other emergencies, or is there any chance at all? Or how about if we spent the money incorrectly and FEMA said, no, we're not getting reimbursed from that? Is there some kind of guarantee that It's going to come back from the general fund then at some point? Exactly. I understand that point.
Well, speaking from city experience, it has on occasion taken longer, but we've never been stiffed by FEMA. Thanks.
You know, we will do our best to get every penny back. And again, what you do in cash flow, if you don't get your money back, it doesn't mean you have to pay for that. That means Flagler County, they have to go back, reconcile these numbers, and see what's the source of funding, make it work. We cannot guarantee anything in these grants, but as Commissioner Neckey said, it's never happened. It's never happened in my time. I have been in this business for 100 years. But you know, but you know, you never predict what would happen.
I agree with a plan, an approach to it, and, you know, our director has done a great job just laying a plan out. So if there's something that we can do to get that into effect sooner than later, so you guys can do what you need to do, it's a win-win-win, as opposed to, you know, almost being forced, oh, it's an emergency, what, you don't care about people? No, absolutely, we care about people and the safety, and the beach, absolutely. But there has to be a plan.
Ken, just let.
I like the idea that Amy came up with. Don't particularly like, it's probably a bad term, hijacking to an extent, some of the funds that are in the Tourist Development Council, but I also can understand the dilemma that you have as well. We are, at the city, are still waiting for money from FEMA from 5 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, so that's one of the apprehensions I have. So I think that we have to be prepared that it may be a while before these dollars come back. And
Absolutely.
I'm also in favor of putting something in language, as it was actually suggested by the chairman, that clearly states, regardless of who's sitting up here, that those dollars are well intended to go back into where they're supposed to. But I totally understand where you are, and we don't want the project to fall on its face either. We've been presented with those kinds of things at Flagler Beach already, and we had to go back and do a lot of things in order to save the project because FEMA was going to cancel it. And then as recently as last week, we had FEMA change the plan for us, and as a result, we're not going to be able to complete a project because they changed the parameters on it, and, you know, at their own discretion. So, you know, having worked for the federal government for a long time, I trust them, but I don't. So that's all I have.
Fair.
Absolutely.
So Nick?
Sure.
I just wanted to hear what they have to say, then we'll discuss.
Sure.
where we're gonna go.
Yep. My stance is that it's a creative, you know, financial direction, and the fact that we just need additional cash flows, and it's a temporary solution. And I understand. I think we have a big opportunity here with FEMA willing to pay 75% of this, and I'm a fan of having dollars earmarked for particular, you know, in this case would be beach renourishment or emergency beach restoration. But at this current standpoint, again, we can't go backwards, like you said. I think that's absolutely true. I think that this is something that just needs to happen, and I'm more comfortable with this. I don't want to call it a shell game, but, you know, essentially just passing funds between one another to be able to cash flow these type of things. I think that's fiscally prudent, and also it's in the best value for our dollar because, you know, they're matching 75% of it. So that's where I stand. I'm very much in favor of creatively moving these funds around, however we have to be able to deem the cash flow is there.
Chairman, I like what Amy came up with. That does make sense. I think with John and Faith, hey, I get it, man. It's a great opportunity to get some matching funds and help with that. I don't know if it sets a precedent for us going forward if we do it, or I don't even know if we've done it in the past. I don't know if we have or not, but I just think if there's a way to get it without coming from here, you would still then get your money back 4 to 5 months. If you take it from the emergency fund or whatever fund reserve you were talking about earlier, you would still get it back too, just like we would get it back. So I think we just have what Amy was talking about, just kind of go with that.
So I agree with Amy, Felicia, Johnny, Ken, and Scott, or Stephen over here. I don't like the passive aggressiveness in the presentation. I feel like we work hard to get that money in there. It's not a problem, it's just the way it's being presented that leaves a bad taste in my mouth. I like it to be a little more organized, and I don't like to feel like I'm broke. So I know we work hard to put the money in there, I'm just being flat with it. Paying it back, it needs to be something, if I took a loan from a bank, I can't just say, oh, well, they might give it back one time. They give me a timeline to give it back. So it needs to be returned, or whichever way you do it, and it needs to be some verbiage where we all can feel comfortable with it. Yes, we love the beach, and that is how the county progresses, but at the same time, people are still gonna go to the beach until you fix it. I sell rooms, and I send people to the beach, and they go to the beach anyway, and they spend money at Johnny's Restaurant, and they go to Marineland. They go anyway. So that was the bad taste in my mouth. I thought that was very passive aggressive. So, on the record, I would say no, but convince me some more.
Just a suggestion until we go on. I think maybe the way to proceed here is to approve. Oh, I'm sorry, Pam, I keep.
You forgot me.
I can't see,
No, I am in total accordance with Felicia and Johnny and Ken and Stephen and Lisa. I'm very hesitant to just mingle funds back and forth and play with the money that everyone has worked hard for. I am very, like I said before, having been on this board for quite some time, FEMA and our federal government is very lax in returning the money. So the idea that Dave mentioned about setting a timeline by the end of the fiscal year or our calendar year, whichever, to return the funds, if approved by the commissioners, must be adhered to. Otherwise, I say no, we don't. The $2 million is not in the beach fund. I agree with Amy that we should have a separate fund and earmark and work with the county attorneys so that money is available should it be needed. But right now, I do not feel good about giving the $2 million.
Okay, so I just as we go along here, I'm thinking about things. I'm not going to make, obviously, I can't make the motion.
We're still
But
in
supposing we
brainstorming.
did this, supposing we went directly to agenda item 11 and approved the concept for Fund 111 beach renourishment first, so that is in being. And I could see something like if the money isn't returned, I'm just making suggestions, if the money isn't returned by the end of the fiscal year, we just, the fund would be, the beach renourishment fund then would replenish the capital fund. I don't want to do that, but it forces the issue to a degree. That would, what we'd be saying is kind of enforcing the fact, hey, we want that money back, and if we don't get it back, we'll take it out of the beach renourishment fund and put it back. So I don't know, just some thoughts.
Well, how much is actually in the beach renourishment fund?
1.4.
No.
Now,
1.4.
putting back the Doria money that they don't need, approximately 1.4 million.
Hey, John?
So if we,
So 1.4 million is left in our beach fund, right? So if we follow the 80-20 principle on that, will anything help? If we go to the 80-20 principle and give you the X amount for the beach renourishment fund, leaving our reserves, specifically, that amount, I mean, will that help? Do you need all 2 million? Can we,
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I think the request was up to 2 million, but there's not that much left in the reserves in 111, and you have a request come in, or the board has a request come in February 6th for basically the lion's share of that. In my mind, we were thinking that if that gets approved, then we're not touching 111 for a while. If I could address a couple things.
Go ahead.
We get it back, that's true, but we also have general fund money that's funding other things too. So again, we're just trying to be able to have the capability of getting in these grants to be able to fix the beach. And so we're looking at everything. And this $2 million that up to $2 million that we're asking for has been sitting in that reserve for a long, long time. and it really needs to be used. We have, in addition, we have general fund, a lot of money in the general fund, but we have a lot of expenses as well, and we need to cash flow those things as well. So we can't go to zero reserves in general fund or zero fund balance in general fund, or else we can't do our regular business. It's the time, and that when I stood up before, I was going to say that, how about give us a year? I know we talked about end of fiscal year. But if maybe you recommend in a year, calendar year, whatever you guys prefer, that if the money's not fully paid back, then the general fund makes up for it, and then we'll just have a due to the general fund after that. But this money is needed. I apologize if it's was backhanded or passive aggressive. I certainly wasn't meaning that to be that way. We just need that cash to get stuff done.
Okay, so at this point, unless Amy has something else to say from the position of the department, but I guess I'm looking for a motion, and I can't make.
Well, I'm not ready to make the motion I was ready to make with the words that he just said. In February, they're going to come to us for the funds that are already in 111
Yeah.
Yeah,
for
well,
something else?
The only thing I suggested was we approve because we're going to start talking about 111 again. If we're going to go with Amy's proposal for 111, we maybe should do that first. So then when we talk about 111, it's kind of different than it was, because if we do 111 first, it becomes almost automatic if they want to, right, Amy? If they want to use money for beach renourishment things.
And I want to be clear, 111 doesn't have to be repaid. That's the use of that money.
Yeah, right.
That's not
So
you have to give it
What I'm saying,
back.
though, Amy, if we approved 111, what John's saying, that they're going to be coming back for a pretty big chunk of money for that in February, would they even have to come back to us at that point?
No, not by what she was
So-
talking about.
Yeah, so there is a task that Olson Engineering needs to be done. It's to secure easements, and that's about 400-something thousand. And that was one of the items that was discussed of possibly bringing it back to you guys. But in lieu of all of that, I feel, and then there could be another project and then another project. So that kind of is what sparked the thought process of, okay, how can we address this as a board where it's not by project, it's not easement, sand sourcing, it's just one big lump sum, and allow them to use it as allowable at their discretion.
Well, and that would save them from possibly losing a grant because they didn't have the money in time to
Right.
The reason I'm saying that we need to maybe do that today is the Board of County Commissioners would still have to approve that decision.
Well, then I will make that motion. I do think that what Amy has proposed of giving them the access to the money that should be used for beach renourishment, which is Fund 111, be given to them to use that way. Of course, through the criteria that it's meant for. And I have all the faith that that's how it will be used. So that's my motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, so for
Okay, we have a
discussion.
motion and a second. Any further public comment on that?
No, but would that actually suffice? Would that be enough to actually hold it over? Is that the problem, though? And we'd be fully depleting that fund up to this point right now?
It's not enough. I mean, it's never
So,
enough.
can I ask one more question?
So we
When
need
did,
to
when
make-
did
All of our
you
money,
plan-
and it's
when
not
did you
enough.
plan on spending the other $2 million that's in this fund? Like, when are we generally talking about that? Is there a year attached to that?
Are we talking about the $2 million cash flow?
Mm-hmm.
We're supposed to start this project by the end of this month.
Gotcha.
And the project schedule 3 to 4 months.
But the earmark projects that are also part of that?
FEMA project, yes, is going to be expired October of this year.
Sure, but the earmarked funds, the other $2-something million?
2.8,
Yes.
3.8 million.
Okay, so the other
The ones
3.8
coming up
Yeah.
with the DEP, there is no expiration date on that. And then the $5 million, but the goal of that to do emergency projects and start working as soon as possible, spending this money.
Yep, and I'm just talking about the additional funds that were earmarked, so that 2-point-something million dollars, where the $1 million is for the relocation of the tourism facility, those dollars that are sitting there, I know they're earmarked, but is there a date that those plan to be spent?
For the visitors?
Yeah.
I don't know anything about
I mean, there's not
this.
really, we don't even really have a year in our minds right now where that could potentially happen, right?
Well, I was saving that
Ideally
for my,
ASAP.
for my
Ideally
office,
ASAP. I'll say
office
that.
update.
Yeah.
I'll give you an update on that.
I'm just saying, we have these funds sitting there, and
Yes,
that's
but-
why the reserves are there, and we're just kind of really, I feel like we're adding more friction to this process by making us go and dance around, and the eligibility for the $2 million here, it just seems,
But I think we're doing two different things right now.
Yeah.
Right now,
The motion right now is about.
111.
we want to give them access to the beach money so that they don't have to keep coming back to us. So that when they have a grant that says, we need 200,000 to match it,
Tell
they
us how
can
they
say,
spend it.
we've got it, let's do it. So,
Yeah.
no, I understand that that doesn't meet their need right now for what they asked us for on number 9 or 10, but it does meet the need that they're going to have tomorrow.
Yeah, and what I'd like to tell the Board of County Commissions is, because of what has happened with the 118, and it's not needed anymore, we've thought about that, and we think that changing the way we handle Fund 111 makes sense, so that kind of issue doesn't come up again.
Right.
And it's kind of like saying, hey, we're working with you.
Well, it gives Faith
overall.
money in her back pocket when she's writing grants.
Yeah. So
Right,
anyway, so that's the
exactly.
motion. Go ahead, further discussion on the current motion, which is on Fund 111 redo.
It makes sense, what Felicia's talking about. I think about what Nick was talking about. I do understand we don't have an earmarked date for the new building for the TDC or the visitor center thing, but I guess it's hard to put a time frame on it. You never know when an opportunity will come up for that. And just similar to like this opportunity, this great opportunity. Hey, we all understand it. But it's just hard to say, hey, if we give that money away, next week, somebody calls Amy and, hey, we want to give you this, but it's going to cost you some money, and we don't have that money. So that's the only thing I think about with what you were talking about with that one, yeah.
Lisa, any additional thoughts on the 111 motion? Okay.
So for Fund 111, that's what we're motioning right now. And
Right,
then I'd
just
like to
to
comment
make the
on
change.
Nick's, but we'll wait, let's get one thing at a time. So Fund
that's fine.
111, the motion was, if you can repeat yourself again.
On their own schedule, as opposed to having come to us and say, this is what we need it for this time, and vice versa. But they have to stay within the parameters that are legal for that account. And I can't see them not doing that.
So we're following the director's
Yes.
plan with Fund 111 to give them access to what they need to as soon as possible for future projects.
That was my
And if there's a
motion.
legal case,
Correct.
we moved it forward in the agenda, it's because of what happened with the request there for the
Hey,
118.
Chairman, can I ask a quick question? If we do that Fund 11, I think you said there's not enough money in it.
Correct.
Right?
And then we can
we'll
go back.
Right,
to
yeah,
the
we can
other,
go back
okay,
that time.
perfect, gotcha.
Okay, so we've had the discussion,
We
we've
have the
had public
motion.
comment.
We have a
So
second.
all those in favor of the motion to change the way we handle Fund 111, a recommendation will go back to the Board of County Commissioners on that, signify by saying aye.
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 And I can vote on that, aye.
Now to go back to
Now we're back
10,
to
or item
10
number
and the $2
10.
million current
And
problem.
I'm sorry, who was the second on that? Because I always write it down and I
I
don't.
was.
Thank
I
you,
was.
Pam.
Nick, can make-
Okay, so we're back to the discussion on agenda item 10, and we're at the point where I think we've had a lot of discussion, I guess I need a motion on how we want to handle that.
I don't know that we can make a motion when it's not legal to use it that way yet. That has to be remedied before we can do that.
We're just giving a recommendation anyways.
Yeah, because that's what it says, review and recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners for the money.
Correct.
correct.
So it's just a recommendation.
So
And you could
I'd
do-
like to have some kind of words on that, then.
Not from.
Yes, yes, so obviously your options are to make a motion to approve capital project fund reserves up to 2 million, all, none, some, it's your recommendation. And then I would then take it to the Board of County Commission in a staff report of the outcome of today's meeting, and then the process would then go from there as
May I
earlier
ask staff a question real quick?
described.
Is there a timeline that you guys would feel comfortable putting, because I feel like we're going to have to add verbiage where this is going to have to be, something set in stone where we're going to have to be repaying these funds. Is there a timeline that you guys would feel more comfortable with? I don't want to put the commission in a weird spot with adding this verbiage without asking staff first if there's, and I know it's hard to predict saying like the upper echelon of a FEMA payback time, but.
Could I just enter here, because I was at the meeting, and what we basically said was that pending the decision of this council today, there would probably have to be a special board meeting before the end of the month in order to follow up, or at least the first meeting. And I think there's a Board of Council, the next one is February 6th. Does that sound
February
right?
6th is the next BOCC.
So I think that the, kind of where the Board of County Commission was coming to us, we delayed it, but there was urgency expressed that we would have to, based on the decision made here, they would go forward with their decision. That's kind of where we are. So I think even if it took a special Board of County Commissioners meeting because of time urgency, I don't think you wanted to wait beyond February 6th on this item.
Oh, agreed.
I thought Nick was asking about
The-
reimbursement. What
Correct.
was the timeline on
Okay,
reimbursement?
Well, go ahead.
Yeah, I just meant the
But on the,
Yeah,
expiration.
Mr. Chair, talking with the county an engineer, the end of the calendar year would be fine. I mean, you're talking about the end of the fiscal year, understanding the timeline of the project and doing all the paperwork and stuff, we just would feel more comfortable with by the end of the year.
Calendar year, understood.
And, adding my 2 cents, you could put in there that the fund's going to be reimbursed at that point regardless, using the general fund if whatever's remaining of the total, I guess.
I would be okay with that.
Me too.
I'll say my only concern would be if an opportunity did come up to where those capital projects, because in real estate or opportunities, if it comes up, I hate when boards or directors almost get bashed for being fiscally responsible. It's every time we do a great job on something, someone else needs help. Well, okay, we want to, as a board, come up with something amazing that we've been strategically planning since 2019, and it's hurricane. And man, I think all of us and staff has done a great job. And then to always see, oh, you guys got all this money, hasn't been doing nothing. Yeah, no crap, because we are waiting for that huge, hey, that hurrah moment that we've done something truly amazing for the county because we did everything right? So moving forward, hey, if we get this money back, or more importantly, if Amy comes to the board, county commissioners, or back to finance, say, hey, I got opportunity, I need this money back in 3 months, you guys got to figure it out. And if I can get that assurance, which you're the finance man, if you can pull from anywhere else, well, then it's easy because we have to be creative and efficient sometime to help each other out. Nick makes a great point on that. And as a businessman, it's great, but our assurance is, look, when we have that opportunity available to us, we need it back. And we don't want to hear, oh, FEMA, or this. No, you got to find a way to get it. And if you can do that, absolutely, it makes it easier. And as we're progressing, we have steps in the future to where now you guys don't have to come back for us for nothing for Beecher Nourishment, because by statute, you guys can use it for what you need to use it for, and we're protected.
So Amy is really saying we do need to make a motion.
And Johnny, the
you guys
county
do
doesn't
it.
have to
And the
agree
one
to
thing I'd
that.
add to the deadline
You can
would
make
be
that
if-
recommendation, but they don't have
Before
to
you
agree.
say,
we
before you
put it in
say
writing?
anything,
You
you'd
can
have to
say
say
it, but
something
they
along
don't
the
have to
lines,
do
if FEMA money is not reimbursed, then we would get the money back. by
From the general
From the
fund.
general fund by the end of the calendar year.
Yep.
So I can't,
I
somebody
can
would
do
make that
that.
motion.
Well,
I
Dave,
will, but I think there's going to be a little comment.
Was there something
I
else?
was just going to make a comment. I can't speak for the board, but I can say if a great opportunity comes up and that's the limiting factor, that the board would most likely, we would figure something out if we needed to.
Okay.
Well, you say that, but then the Board of County Commission can
say no.
say no.
I mean,
And because at the end of the day,
They
we all-
support you guys.
Yeah.
well, they should.
Yeah.
I think
Well,
we have
it
enough
left
to make a
us
motion.
to question by the way all this came up. So
Yeah.
I can do it, yep.
yeah, I recognize.
Yep, I would like to make a motion that we make this cash flow available, but also with the added verbiage that we expect it to be paid back by the end of calendar year, and also with an outstanding situation that were to come available to us as a TDC, that we would expect the commission to be understanding and be willing to be able to come up with a creative solution to make that happen. So if we have an outstanding opportunity arise, that we are still able to take advantage of it as the TDC.
That's good.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any further public comment concerning the motion that's on the floor now concerning agenda item 10? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board for all those in favor as the motion explained by Board Member Clufus to handle the Fund 109 capital projects recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners for the interloan fund of $2 million from reserves for the North Flagler County Dune Restoration Project Hurricane. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Can we take a roll call? For the clerk, can we take a roll call?
Okay, we'll do a roll call just to make sure everybody's clear on this. And call on me last.
Just for clarity.
Yeah.
So even if we approve it here, the county commissioners can override it,
Correct.
By a
Correct.
majority plus one.
They could say we don't agree with the
Terms.
repayment piece, you know,
Yep.
something like that. So go ahead and do the roll call.
So I think we have it backwards. That's my opinion.
Ms. Cook?
No.
Lose your eye?
No.
No on the motion. Is that
Correct.
Okay.
I'm going to say no only because it can be overridden. That's fine.
I think we have it backwards.
Aye.
No.
No.
Okay,
And no from me.
You
Thank
say,
you, Pam.
Pam?
No, no.
Okay, so the motion fails, and so is there another motion?
Well, let's go to a discussion first. I think that we have it a little backwards.
Make a motion.
I think that the county board needs to say, if this is approved, this is how it will be handled. So then our motion isn't getting torn apart because they decide, nope, we're not going to repay it, or nope, it's not going to be like you want, or no, we can't help you when you need it. So my point is, the board needs to say, if the TDC also approves the use of, is it 109? I'm confused now.
111 is beach.
No, 111 is beach, but the capital.
109 is
109. So can use 109, this is how it will be repaid. And then we get to agree to that. Because the way we're doing it now, we're asking them, this is how we'd like to have it repaid, but they can say no.
They can anyway.
Yeah, I
They
think it's done.
overrule us
Here's
anytime.
what I think. The $2 million Amy will bring our motion, or our result, to the board. And then the board says, okay, we understand what you said, but we approve the $2 million anyway. At that point, it's a
Okay, so
done
since
deal.
she's going to bring that to the board, I believe she will bring exactly how Mr. Nick read
Yeah,
it.
because if what you said happens, it's a no-brainer.
Right. So if she's reading to the board, this was the motion, I'm sorry it failed. And the board
Because-
says, oh, that was a good motion. We'd like to do it anyway.
Well,
So if I'm
but there's no
understanding.
guarantee on that.
If I'm
That's all
under-
saying.
Right.
There's no guarantee.
If I'm understanding, it's, we do not recommend item number
9?
10.
Yeah, Item 10.
But how, when I present it to the board or write a staff report. However, if the county commission is going to consider overriding, then we respectfully request these terms to be considered. Is that what I'm
That's good.
hearing,
And
Felicia?
all of us would be on board with it, because again, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But to deplete the fund,
Okay.
Is
So
that true? Would the rest of the board be okay with that if that's what Amy takes to the commission?
I would, and I think it sort of sends a signal from the TDC perspective is that, and, you know, this could be an ongoing thing. I'm not saying it will be because of, you know, your planning, whatever it is, but it's kind of sets a precedent where we are now that these things need to be given more consideration in the future. And this is what it's reserved for, and that's what we, as a board, would like to see it reserved as.
And I don't think we're being ugly and not being team members. I just think that there's a process in which it should happen.
Right. And I understand.
Without
you know,
losing an
decision
opportunity
making
to, though.
Correct.
Yeah.
But that's what special meetings are for.
Okay, is that, okay, so that's the direction on item 10. I would suggest, Amy, that when you come to the board meeting, there may have to be a special one now, I'm just going to ask them, is do the Fund 11 thing first, because we're trying to work with them, you know, and then bring up the 2 million. Now, what is the deadline where you need a decision on the 2 million? You know, the final, the board.
Well, I don't think there should be a deadline when they've gotten it approved from the general fund. They're just wanting to replace the general fund so the general fund doesn't go dry.
I got that. Just let me talk. So the question is, do we need a special BOCC meeting on this, or can you wait till February 6th?
I think, John, yeah, because
You already have the money.
Mr. Chair, yeah, the board, my recollection is the board approved using general fund until this board met and was supplanted with this tourist money. I have to reread the motion as it was given, but I would say we could just use the general fund at this point, if this fails.
Yeah, but when would, so February 6th be
When do
all
you
right
need
for this
it?
part of it?
Yeah, when do you need to start?
Because I thought the urgent one was the other fund, the 118 was by the end of the month.
both of them, but the 118 has been resolved.
I know.
Yes.
I'm just saying, at that meeting, I don't remember what the deadline was for the 2 million, as far as when since you already have the money out of the reserves. So if the board does nothing, if the Board of County Commissioners does nothing, that 2 million still goes.
You've already approved it so that she could continue to move forward. So the county commission said.
So I think February 6th is okay.
February 6th is when we come back and say, here, here's what the TDC said about that as directed.
Okay, I'm just saying the way it's going to
So what you're doing is you're using the general fund 2 million, and once this is approved, if it's approved by the BCC, you use those dollars to put back in the general fund.
I mean, the Board of County Commissioners could say,
Yeah, right.
okay, we agree with the TDC, it shouldn't come out of there, so it continues to come out of the reserve.
Right, okay.
Well, and if they should not say that and they decide they want to use it, it still has to go through the ordinance situation because we are doing what is correct. We are saying, no, we can't let you do that because that's not how this fund is supposed to be used. So it would be up to the county board to say, we're going to change how that can be used.
Right, I agree. Okay.
So it's
I
not that
think
we're not
that's-
supporting them, we want the process right.
I think that's it on item 10.
Perfect.
Good
for me.
Item 12, we've done 11, is the quarterly marketing update. So that's.
Yes, we have Courtney and Candy that'll just give a brief update, and we're all going to keep our portions shorter than usual.
Thank you, Faith and John, by the way.
Yes, and thank you, Faith, for getting that matching money taken care of.
Okay, in October, we featured content related to fall activities and history. For the history angle, we had a blog post highlighting the Flagler Beach Historical Museum and the Florida Agricultural Museum and all of their offerings. And then to tie history to Halloween, there was a featured post about Bulow Plantation and its past and all the local legends surrounding the park. And the events calendar, again, is always one of our top landing pages. So we compiled the fall events in a blog post to take advantage of those SEO keywords. November. And for November, again, we focused on Thanksgiving dining and small businesses and organizations. We had a blog post compiling all the local restaurants that were open for Thanksgiving holiday because that's a common search by our visitors and locals. And then in correlation with Giving Tuesday, we focused on voluntourism with a twist, which was donations to local nonprofits. We highlighted some of the nonprofits with tourism ties, like the Flagler Auditorium and the Sea Turtle Hospital at Whitney Laboratory. And in December, we again had a seasonal focus with festive eats, events, and shopping. And our festive eats post highlighted all of the delicious seasonal treats. We also had a fun blog post highlighting stocking stuffers, which is a variation of the gift guide we did last year. And then again, like in October, we took advantage of those SEO keywords and the popularity of our events pages to create one centralized post with all the holiday themed events like Starry Nights.
All right, I have two new videos that we told you were coming up soon. So the first one is the Tourism Pays video. This video is one that has been used industry-wide, and each destination customizes the video with their logo and economic impact numbers. The video takes viewers through the process of deciding on and booking a vacation and how the spending on that vacation trickles down to the residents of Flagler County.
Hi, I'm Dave, proud owner of a working peach orchard and big-time supporter of promoting tourism. So, why does a peach farmer care about tourism? Well, let me tell you a little story about John and Jane.
Hi.
They thought it would be nice to take a vacation. John had ideas, and Jane had ideas. But as they talked, they couldn't decide where to go. They knew their perfect place was out there, they just had to find it. Jane flipped through magazines. John started noticing the vacation ads on TV. On his way to work, John saw billboards and heard radio ads.
Mostly sunny skies.
And once he got there, he talked to his friends about where they spent their vacations. Jane did some research on the internet, visiting different websites to see which places had what they were looking for. After seeing all their options, John and Jane came to the same conclusion.
We found the perfect place.
They were so excited, they started to plan their trip right away. After booking their flights, John was eager to line up some things to do in the perfect place. So he visited the Perfect Place's website, watched a video, checked out the hotels, bought tickets to a ball game, and signed up for the Perfect Place's e-newsletter especially for visitors. John also downloaded the Perfect Place's smartphone app so he could get information on the go. Jane liked the Perfect Place's Facebook page and followed the Perfect Place on Twitter so she could get updates, ideas, and special deals. Jane also called the toll-free number and spoke to a nice lady who told her everything she needed to know about the Perfect Place. Jane also got the visitor's guide, which helped her learn what theater productions were in town, where to eat, and other things to do in the Perfect Place. So, John and Jane had explored their options, booked their travel, and planned their vacation. They packed their bags and off they went. End of story, right? Actually, this is where the real story begins, because what do you think John and Jane do when they get to the Perfect Place? Guess what? They spend their money. They spend their money on their rental car, in their hotel, seeing the attractions, enjoying outdoor activities, shopping, and dining out. They're happy they came to the Perfect Place. Woohoo! You know who else is happy? The hotel they stayed in, of course, and the bellman at the hotel, the workers at the local company that supplies his uniform, the stores they shop at, and the banks they use. And then there's the restaurant where John and Jane ate dinner, and the waitress who served them their wine? She's happy too. So's the local vineyard that grew the grapes that made the wine, the people who bottled it, and the drivers who brought it into town, and the peach farmer who supplied the peaches for the cobbler that the waitress served John and Jane for dessert. That's why someone like me cares about tourism in somewhere like the Perfect Place. Yes, I'm a farmer, but I'm also a businessman, and I can draw a lot of conclusions from that story. I bet you can too. Tourism creates jobs. It brings in spending. And tourists pay taxes, which means locals pay less. But tourism is competitive, and without the marketing engine that drives it, people like John and Jane will take their money to some other destination, where it'll benefit some other local economy. Let's make sure our local economy grows. Let's feed it, nurture it, help it along, so it becomes strong, healthy, and delicious. Tourism is vital to us, like oranges to Florida, cars to Michigan, or wine to Napa. Without marketing funding, many visitors will find the perfect place somewhere else. Tourism pays for everyone.
You can see that it really breaks it down for those who know little to nothing about tourism and how it benefits them. So this video can be found on our tourism partner site, but it'll also be shared in our presentations throughout the county. The next video we have is the Dodge the Dunes video as part of the relaunch of the Dodge the Dunes campaign. We had Cycle Here Media create a video to help educate the public on the do's and don'ts of beach access and sea turtle nesting season.
Hi, I'm meteorologist Sunny Ray, and your Flagler Beach forecast is full of sunshine. Hey guys, wait, watch where you step. Remember, you've got to dodge the dunes around here. This feels like a good time to review the do's and don'ts of proper beach access and how to protect our fragile sea dunes. These dunes are our first line of defense against storms and erosion, protecting our homes, businesses, and natural ecosystems. Beach grass anchors these sandy dunes in place, and without that vegetation, our fragile dunes can be lost to the effects of wind, waves, and rain. So please, dodge the dunes. Avoid any parking, driving, or walking on grass or plants on the east side of A1A. And it's illegal to cut or remove any dune vegetation. Proper beach access is easy. Just use the approved walkovers and access points. Don't walk, slide, jump, or throw items down the dunes. You can also help be a good steward of our pristine beaches by following these important tips. Smoking is not permitted on Flagler beaches, so dispose of your cigarette butts in the provided receptacles when you arrive. When you pack up for the day, remember to pick up all your beach gear and take all trash with you. And please, never disturb or harass sea turtles or their nests. After beach play, it's important to fill in holes and level sandcastles to prevent dangerous obstacles. Clean up. Be sure to take everything with you. Leave nothing behind but your footprints. At night, no lights on the beach during nesting season. Bonfires, flashlights, even flash photography can disorient turtles. Do your part to protect this unique and environmentally sensitive area. If you're fortunate enough to enjoy Flagler Beach's great weather and beautiful beaches, don't forget, mind the sea turtles and dodge the dunes.
All right, yes, there are also 2 shorter breakout videos that are formatted for Instagram Reels, which makes it easier for our followers to digest on social media. And of course, the video can be found on the Dodge the Dunes page of our website, visit flagler.com.
Thank you. That was great. All right, so we're now down to agenda item 13, Tourism Development Council Office Update.
Thank you. All right. So I have 2 items that I just need to read into the record. Last July, you had approved under the special event marketing grant 2 events that have been canceled. So I want to read those into the record. One of them is Cheer at the Pier from the Flagler Beach Historical Museum. With everything going on with the pier and all the uncertainties, they are kind of taking the time to relook at combining their other annual fundraiser event, Moon Dance. So they're kind of working on that as a board, but in the meantime, they informed me that the previous event, Cheer at the Pier, which was scheduled for April 9th, 2023, has been canceled. They were approved up to $3,012.50, so that will go back into the special event marketing grant fund. The second event is Freedom Fest, and that event was to happen this past November 21st, 2022. They were approved up to $5,000, and that event has officially been canceled, so that funding will go back into the special event marketing grant. The other item I wanted to update you on is the current status of our Visitor Experience Center, Welcome Center, Visitor Center, whatever you want to call it. So as you know, we've been working a couple years now on finding a location that meets the objectives and kind of the business model we were looking for over in Flagler Beach. And as everyone knows, there's not a lot of options. Space is limited with little room to grow. So we've been diligently working for almost 2 years on different locations. But we're at the point now because we are looking to partner with the Scenic A1A Byway Group so that we are able to get an 80-20 grant with our organization responsible for 20%. Those timelines are coming up again. So what we've done, and also in light of the recent hurricanes, we started looking for locations that would not be in Flagler Beach. And so where we're at right now is, if everyone knows where the pedestrian bridge on 100 is, there are possibly 2 options. So if you're going east on 100, right before the bridge, there is something called a shell pit, and you can see it from 100. And there is a turning lane already there if you're coming from beachside. So we're looking at that as a possible location. The county already owns that, so there would not be a need to purchase any property. And then also, we're looking to work with Faith and her team because she's the project person on that pedestrian bridge to see if there's opportunities there near that footbridge and trailhead. So we're looking into those possibilities, and we're going to continue to do our due diligence. We're hoping to get into this grant cycle. It's a federal grant, so kind of the way they did it last year was they were vetted first by the state byway program, and then the state kind of ranked them and then took those applicants and pulled the ones that they want to recommend to the federal program. So with that said, with the uncertainties and the cost, this would probably happen late spring, early summer. So to be determined if we would need additional fundings to bring to the table. The good news is that it's an 80-20 match. And the more money that we bring to the table, it increases our chances. They like those types of projects. So we're just in the very, very beginning stages. This happened probably the month of December. So we will continue to look into those 2 possibilities, still keeping Flagler Beach open, but nothing short of a miracle to make it happen in this time frame may not be possible. And also, with the vulnerability that Flagler Beach sits in is also, has to be considered. The other item I had is...
Amy?
Yes, sir.
I just have a comment on that. As a commissioner and resident of Flagler Beach, 2 years you've been working on this, and I'm disappointed, not in you, but I'm disappointed in the process over the last 2 years, and I think that there were some opportunities that were missed, mainly because of politics. And it's a shame, it really is. But I really give you credit for trying so hard to do this. And I'm sure you will continue to do that. And I won't be a commissioner, but I will certainly do as much as I can in order to try to help that come to fruition. So I just want to make that comment.
Thank you, I appreciate it. And, the original business model, what was very important through the strategic plan into our office was that through that center, that we find ways to have the local businesses have the opportunity to have additional revenue streams through the different types of programs and packages and experiences. And we still want to do that. It just may look different. We're in those stages, but this would be a true tourism eco magnet for the county, would be a destination and attraction, and it's also in line with our strategic plan of the ecotourism, further developing our ecotourism product. And that's why it's so important to keep, in my opinion, and through the strategic plan, supports it, diversifying our revenues so that it's not all going into sports. It's not all going into ecotourism. It's not all going into the beach, that we feel all of these assets need to be developed and we need to contribute to that, whether it's a resource or funding or a combination of both. So in the event it pans out at the pedestrian and there's an opportunity to do capital project infrastructure improvements so that we can have a strong ecotourism product, however that may look, it would be nice to be able to quickly be able to access the funds to do that. Faith has access. Of course, she's great at getting grants. She can get grants and has one at her fingertips already at the project there. So, so there's a few things at play. So,
And the
yeah,
Flagler
I
Beach
appreciate it.
project, or the opportunity, is not necessarily dead, but all she's asking then is just
We
to
need a
look at
miracle.
another option.
Keep looking at options.
But Flagler Beach is still on the table, and it should be, and maybe,
we're keeping all of our options open and always have
Okay.
until.
I just wanted to
until it's
express
not.
my
I appreciate it.
personal feelings.
And with that also, for those of you who may not know, Commissioner Bryan, this will be his last meeting because of the way their elections fall in Flagler Beach. He was deciding to run in March, but then he decided that he wants to retire for real. So this is his last meeting, so thank you for your support and participation in our council. The last item I have real quickly is just our next meeting, usually in January. I like to give an end-of-year report, but
Amy, we do have to do community outreach, at least I have to say that.
yes, this is my last
Yeah,
item.
okay, all right.
So I will do an end-of-year report and recap for our April meeting in light of today's
All right,
agenda.
thank you.
Thank
So item 14 is community outreach. Was there anyone still here from the public who wanted to say anything? I see no one coming forward. And so we back to a board member comments. So why don't we start, I've been starting on this side. Felicia, go ahead. And then we'll come around.
First, thank you, Ken. We will miss you. You have brought good stuff to us.
you.
So thank you. You've made us think and you've made us act, and I appreciate that. Thank you, marketing team. You did a great job on this last quarter. We appreciate that. And again, I just want it said, we're not saying that we don't support and that we're not playing team. We're just asking that it go by the right process. That's the only way I can sleep at night, is knowing that I have my integrity and I did what was right.
Thank you. John?
a little recap on Starry Nights that just concluded, City of Flagler Beach, and a couple, I don't know the best way to put it, stakeholders had a quick recap, and we're already starting to brainstorm the do's and don'ts, or what we like to do better. We are going to be looking for, the Chamber or the Veterans Park, we're going to be looking for a new contractor to come in next year, maybe with a little bit different design. We don't have the pier next year, and we're actually possibly thinking about a location change from where the displays are set up with the new construction and all of the magnitude of projects in Flagler Beach over the next few years. We were trying to figure out a solution on what we can do and how we can keep what Starry Nights is all about. And Wickline Park was thrown up there, and there are a couple people already doing their due diligence to say, look, if Veterans Park may be too busy as a center point of attraction, there's already different ideas floating around, and spreading it out to along A1A amongst all the residents and businesses. Those are the key points or the key takeaways from that. Other than that, some of the technical difficulties of just the rain and the type of weather we get in December. But overall, I mean, the first Friday is probably one of the launch of Starry Nights that weekend is probably the busiest that Flagler Beach is. I mean, it's just it's a wonderful mix of events. You have all ages there, all different types of people, families, the business owners. I mean, it really is an amazing feeling December, especially after all the crap we went through with all the hurricanes. Overall, the business community, I mean, we all took a pretty big hit with back-to-back storms, just like a lot of the residents that were flooded. It was definitely a difficult time. A lot of us seen big drops in numbers, which is expected. The bright side is with DOT and DEP and Jesus, every agency out there right now is in Flagler Beach, and they are absolutely open to suggestions and having a final product on the ground. And with the dunes and the structure, it's really nice to see the support that our federal government, our locals are really putting toward the effort, and we're trying to get rid of a lot of the naysaying, a lot of the negativity. And with what I just seen with DOT, I was personally invited to more of a one-on-one with them and saying, look, here's what we got on the table. This is what we're planning to do. It's not a presentation, more so it's, hey, what do you think? I was able to offer up different suggestions on the looks, and hey, instead of using granite rock, can we use coquina? Can we use a little bit of both? You know, and they're like, oh my God, yeah, that's a great, okay, you know, what part do you live in? They're asking one-on-one types of questions to residents and business owners, asking, hey, what do you want your beach to really look like? And, well, we want what we've had. We want what we had when we used it. We just want it more efficient and more secure, and how can we do that? So it's really nice to see that coming together in Flagler Beach. And, I mean, these next few years are really critical, and I'm hoping that a lot of us come together and work together with all the intergovernment politics that happen, the missed opportunities we've had in the past. We're hoping that doesn't happen. So moving forward, whatever we can do to help.
Okay. Just want to give you a pier update. We all know that it's closed. However, the bait shop is still open, and we've been doing some things to encourage visitors to still come by the bait shop in that area. I've been talking to the folks at the Sport Fishermen's Club, who's actually going to start putting on workshops on how to actually do surf fishing. We're talking about having some tournaments and things of that nature in order to still have people coming to the pier. The piers have actually been doing, the bait shop and pier has been doing quite well as far as revenue is concerned. They just started carrying live bait, so they have shrimp there now, where I stop to get all of my shrimp now, which includes Saturday for the tournament. But they're coming along and doing a lot of great things. The employees there are very enthusiastic about keeping things going and very dedicated to what they're doing. There's also going to be a workshop on the pier I think it's next week, over at the city itself on how things are going, the design and the engineering parts of it. So we invite folks to come out for that. As Amy just talked about, as the Tourist Development Council talked about, we did implement an ordinance of no smoking on the beach or in the parks of Flagler Beach, and that's something we're looking forward to promote as we're moving along, and also to educate people, because there's still a lot of people smoking, and they don't realize that there's a no smoking policy, or we should say law. And we're trying to promote it as being no smoke and smoke-free beaches in Flagler Beach. One of the things we kicked off yesterday was the centennial. Flagler Beach is going to be having a centennial in 3 years. So we had our first original official meeting yesterday. I was very, very happy to see so many folks there, to include the Tourist Development Council, to represent the Tourist Development Council, as well as many other stakeholders. We're looking forward as we move forward. I don't know how I got roped into it, but it's probably because I put on the meeting and nobody else would take the chairmanship. So I am going to be the interim chairman, but we're able to get 2 vice chairs to start moving this along and start planning. There's a lot of planning to be done. We're going to be looking at stakeholders, and one of the things I'm looking at doing is actually identifying corporate sponsors, local businesses. We're going to be looking at family-oriented things. One of the things we talked about yesterday is that the official name, if you want to call it that, is going to be the Flagler Beach Centennial, and we're going to have it under one of the nonprofits that we already have in existence, which is Flagler Strong. And that enables us to be able to do a lot more without having the government get in the way. Let's just leave it at that. So, you know, there's a lot of things we're excited about. Johnny was there. A lot of local businesses were there. And there's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of history in Flagler Beach. And it's going to be a pretty exciting time. One of the things we also talked about was having 100 days of celebration. So that should be really exciting as well. And we're going to start looking at branding, and hopefully the Tourist Development Council can help us to come up with some logos and other kinds of things. We're looking at getting a Facebook up pretty soon to focus on the centennial. So everything is going to be 100 years, a centennial, trying to promote it in that particular aspect. Looking at local crafts, looking at menus and things like this out of the restaurants. So just want to let folks know, we're going to be focusing on that a lot as we come forward. And as the commission moves on towards that. And as Amy just mentioned, as I also mentioned, this is my last meeting as the Tourist Development Council representative for Flagler Beach. I'm up for re-election, and I'd actually signed up. And then over the holidays, my wife said, "What are you doing?" She said, "You've had 56 years of public service." And I started at 18. So I've worked for many, many agencies, to include the Air Force, the Navy, the Department of Justice, the White House, state government, local government, and city government. So I think it's time to focus on family, travel, and a few projects sprinkled in between there, and continue to be engaged a little bit, but not a lot. Time to relax and enjoy life. But I want to tell everyone I've thoroughly enjoyed being on this particular committee here and the Tourist Development Council. I hope I've contributed something, but I sure did get a lot from all of you folks. Thank you.
Ken, thank you very much for your years of service and everything that you've done for not only Flagler County, but throughout your history. I would also like to thank Dave Sullivan for his ability to be able to synergize the county commission and the TDC by bringing things back to us and following the particular suit of command. I think that's awesome. I think that's a great nod to everybody kind of doing the right thing. Besides that, I would just say Happy New Year. And again, Ken, thank you for everything and good luck in retirement. And be sure to keep frequenting the live bait shop, though.
Absolutely.
Stephen?
Ken, hey, congratulations. Can't pass a cigarette collection point without thinking about you, because you always talked about that, and I know that's near and dear to you. But at Hammock Beach, man, best year we ever had last year, we opened up Pizza and Gelato, and that's been an ongoing 17-year project since I've been there, and so it's good to see that open in the shops. And Star Report that we look at, we have two sets, our current set, then an aspirational gold set, like Omni, Amelia Island, the Ritz, Carlton up there, things like that, and we're beating those guys. So, man, it's happy, but it's just, rates are rising like crazy, and food costs, and so, man, it's just good to continue it in that right direction, and they're looking for group revenue to really grow this year. Leisure to kind of stay the same, but group increasing a good bit on there. So fingers crossed on that.
Ken, thank you so much. And Stephen Baker will give you a farewell lunch because I'm volunteering him because he owes us lunch from last year. You all agree. We'll be at the Hammock eating lunch with him. Yeah, he reneges on his invites, but I'll make sure that we have a goodbye party for you, and I'll
So if
make
I show up at his door every morning,
something for everything you've contributed and all your service work, period. We like to thank you from all of us here. You're such a great asset to our county and our community, so I'll miss you, but we'll make him feed you. Yeah, so 2022, like I will piggyback off of Stephen a little bit. Very exceptional year. My Hampton made the most money it's ever made since it opened. We did almost $3 million. Our goal is to push it up to maybe 3.2. I'll try to get. Yeah, so since I've taken over, even though I started with COVID, me and my team have made the most money in that building. So with that being said, we are very, very invested in the tax dollars and the tourism and making sure that the community functions and flows, and that we definitely always, since I sat here, we push the beach. So it's not a thing that we don't push the beach. I got people going to the beach now and they can't get on the beach. But I say, hey, my friends have restaurants and stores and things, you could still walk and take pictures, because a lot of times it's cold here too, but people are about the Florida sunshine. So we'll continue our commitment with that to make sure that, like that video showed, every person is happy when we have tourist dollars here. So that's still our commission and our goal for this year is to get stronger. We have a lot of group business as well too. It's just coming from somewhere. everybody loves us in this county, and they're coming here and they're moving here for whoever that's for, but they're visiting too. So it looks very positive for 2023, even if it is a storm. It's still positive. People still want to stay here if they have to make a choice of where you're going to be when you're homeless. You'd rather probably be here with us because we're nice. So it's always spirited and fun to join you guys, and that's all I got.
And Pam?
Thank you, Ken, for your good work on this council. It's been enjoyable working with you, and I just think this council's done a great job. Tourism worldwide is up over 120%. Occupancy rates are 90%. It's hard to get rooms everywhere in the world right now. People are just going everywhere. No one wants to stay home anymore, I don't think. But it's a wonderful precedent for us to market ourselves and get people to our beaches, which are so beautiful, and our 19 miles of beach access. I just think it's great. We've got to just promote it to the hilt right now because we're doing so well. 2023 is going to be a great year. Thank you, Ken, again.
Thank you.
And Ken, thank you. As chairman, you've been great assistance. You've done a lot of work over there in Flagler Beach with things like the cigarette things and benches, you name it, you've been involved. So I suspect you'll continue to be involved. You're already on the 100-year committee, so it sounds like that's almost going to be a full-time job. So,
No, it's not.
so thank you very much. I wanted to point one thing out. On ecotourism, I'm the executive board of the Northeast Florida Regional Council. Which is important, and I've been there for a long time, and now I'm on the executive board. We've already decided for 2024 for the whole Northeast region, that's Jacksonville and everything else, that ecotourism is going to be the theme. We have our pedestrian bridge getting ready to open here, late winter, spring? But anyway, I think that event should be tied to that kind of thing, and that we've been doing ecotourism in this county for a long time. They don't know how to do ecotourism up at the northern counties. We have the Jacksonville boards on the head, and they really want to look to things. So I think if we have a nice event for that, I think we can bring them down from Jacksonville and some other places and say, hey, this is what we're doing. The connection into the trailhead and maybe the future visitor center is all good. So that theme will be a big theme in Northeast Florida, and so I think that's really good. Just for a couple of other things, the 100th anniversary, Governor DeSantis will be in Daytona at 12 o'clock today, less than an hour from now, and he is supportive of beach, the whole beach renourishment thing. So he's been here in Flagler, he's in Daytona today, and I think that's good faith for the possibility of getting, making sure that money comes through from the state as well as other agencies. So with that, that's it. Thank you all for the thoughts about me. I had my stroke back on December 7th, and I'm live and kicking still, and so I'm glad. So thank you everybody who said some nice things. But anyway, that's it. I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, we're adjourned. Thank you all for being here. I know it took a little long, but some important things we had to discuss today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pam.
Yeah, I'm going to be fine. And